So force majeure is a legal term. Um, it usually applies to contract law, and that's when an unforeseen circumstance prevents the fulfillment of a contract. So let's say you had a factory and you had a contract to make widgets, but then a hurricane came through and destroyed your factory. That would be a force majeure situation, and you wouldn't be held liable to fulfill your contract. So typically, force majeure situations are earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, stuff like that. In my case, it was the coronavirus. And the coronavirus pandemic was an unforeseen circumstance that ultimately prevented me from holding the Area 72 International Speech and Table Topics contest. Now, I had decided to chair this contest as part of my high performance leadership project, which is a requirement for a distinguished Toastmaster. And the high performance leadership project, just very quickly, is a project. There's a manual that you use. Here's mine. And it basically outlines steps for whoever's doing the project to pick a goal, and the goal has to involve a team of people to complete, and there's various steps from beginning to end towards the completion of that goal. So as I said, the goal I chose was to chair the Area 72 International Speech Contest. And so the first thing I had to do was secure a venue, which I wanted to hold it at Apex because I feel like their venue is the best. And I spoke to Rupa, but Rupa didn't want to do that because there had been other non-traditional Toastmaster meetings, and it was clogging up the schedule. So I went to Peakway Toastmasters and asked them if I could use their venue, and they agreed to do that. I recruited a team, which involved a lot of emails and direct solicitations of people. And just an FYI, general emails asking for volunteers is completely ineffectual. So for future reference, don't even bother. It's better to directly solicit people where you can, corner them and shame them into working for you, especially if you're not paying them. So I recruited a team, and I did my best to make sure everyone knew what they were doing. Let's see, I printed out a bunch of materials, and just to show you this, I printed out 20 of these double-sided programs, which took up a whole Saturday afternoon of my life. But that just demonstrates my dedication to the project. So I had this goal that I feel like the contests have a glaring flaw, and that is that the flow of the contest is continually being interrupted by ballot counting and contestant interviews. So I had an idea to change the flow of the meeting, and that would be normally in a two-part contest. So, first the table topics, then the international speech. After the table topics contest, there's a pause where the ballot counters collect the ballots, and then they go off and count them. And then when they're done counting them, they come back, and then the meeting resumes. And there's the speech contest, and then there's another pause where those ballots are counted and collected, and then that's usually the time when the contestant interviews are being held. And it's clear to everyone that those interviews are just there to sort of fill that gap of time. And sometimes they can be very awkward situations for the audience, I feel. Maybe not everyone agrees with me on that, but anyway. So my idea was that after the first contest, the ballot counters would collect the ballots, but they wouldn't count them then. The second contest would immediately start up after the ballots were counted for the table topics contest. Then you would have the international speech contests, and those ballots would then be counted. And then we'd have an intermission where the ballot counters would go and count the ballots. And during that intermission, people could mingle and eat food and all that sort of stuff. When the ballot counters are done counting the ballots, they'll come to me and give me the results as contest chair. And then I'll restart the meeting. I'll call the contestants up to the front of the room. We'll have very brief interactions. I'll announce the winner, and then, you know, bada boom, bada bing, that the contest will be adjourned. I think that the flow would just be better managed that way. It would just be a more enjoyable contest. Unfortunately, I was not able to implement that change to the contest format because a week before the contest was to be held, I was informed that Piquet could not hold the contest. At that time, the coronavirus was hitting the headlines. Piquet's meeting location is a senior living facility, and obviously the elderly are susceptible to the virus, so that was understandable. I went back to Apex and begged to be able to use Apex meeting location. Shelley and Rupa, you might remember this, and after some back and forth, you guys agreed, but then 2 days later, I was told that Apex couldn't hold the contest either. There was a little gap of time where I tried to get some instructions from the district. It eventually became, the district announced that the areas could hold their contests online, virtually, but they had to be held by March 25th, and that was less than a week away from when I had learned that. So I tried to get people to, tried to get all the participants together to see if we could hold some semblance of a contest, but really, it was really hard to get people to respond to me, and that's completely understandable. You know, a global pandemic certainly takes priority over the online area contest that I was trying to hold. So completely understand that. Force majeure. I tried to accomplish my goal for the high performance leadership project, but I was not able to do so because of a global pandemic. But that doesn't mean I didn't learn anything. One lesson I learned was that leaders can't control everything, especially when you're seeking participation from people that you're not paying. So it's hard to control participants, and it's hard to control for global pandemics. And I'm not saying that as an excuse. I'm just saying that as a leader, you know, these are things that these defined the reality of the situation. So leaders should understand that. But I also discovered that problems usually have a solution. My first choice for a venue I couldn't use, so I found a second choice for a venue. When I had people signed up for a role and, you know, they weren't responsive to me, I could find another person to replace them, you know, just for example. So problems have solutions, and even when problems don't have solutions, like a global pandemic that, you know, that's barred me from holding the contest, it was still a teachable moment. I feel like this whole situation was educational, and I think leaders, you know, should approach their leadership situations, you know, when there are no solutions to a problem that you're facing. It's a good idea to look at it as a teachable moment, I think. So I never got a chance to implement that change to the contest format, but hopefully sometime in the future I'll be able to do that, and I'm looking forward to it. So thank you, Madam Toastmaster.